Hello there, and welcome to another episode of Cutting Through the Bullshit. My name is Dr. Stephanie Snyder, and I am a high performance mentor. Through my unique blend of strategy, mindset, and intuition, I help men and women to cut through the BS in order to create the life and business they desire. So today, sorry, I'm totally thrown off. My son changed the settings on my camera, and it's ridiculously clear now, and it's just a little disarming. That's all. No worries. No worries at all. Anyways, welcome to the podcast. And today we're going to talk about one of my favorite things to discuss because it is just so relevant all the time. And it reminded me of a story when I was golfing with my son at one point. And so it's about your priorities. And I remember, actually, I was golfing with my husband, and I remember being really annoyed that I wasn't making the putt. And he looked at me and he said, "Yeah, but when do you practice?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, good point, right?" And it just reminded me that you can complain, right, about where you are. However, if it's not a priority for you, then your complaint is kind of fall on kind of deaf ears, right? And so what do I mean by this? I mean, if when you're with a group of friends, you complain about your weight. Let's just go with that one, right? If you complain about your weight when you're with friends, but then you don't make it a priority, then you're just disempowering yourself. And I'm trying to come up with maybe a nicer way to say this, but the truth is, if it's not a priority to you, you will come up with a billion excuses. And until that thing becomes a priority for you, it doesn't really matter. You're going to just complain about nothing and disempower yourself repeatedly. And so I was thinking about this morning because I was noticing where my time was going, and this is something I pay attention to quite frequently, is, where is my time going? Because those are my priorities. Where's my money, my energy, and my time going? Those are the three resources that we have. And if you pay attention to where your time is going, you will immediately know what your priorities are. And I I had a little moment of this over the weekend when I was annoyed that I hadn't gotten to play solitaire yet, right? There's a solitaire app on my phone, and I just love to play solitaire. I just kind of tune the rest of the world out, and I get to play solitaire, and it's not for any other reason than the fact that it's just a little something that I get to do. But what I realized was I had prioritized solitaire, and I thought to myself, do I really want to prioritize solitaire? Is this something that 100 years from now, 50 years from now, I'm going to be like, oh, thank God I got to play solitaire, right? Like, thank God I prioritized my solitaire time. And the answer is no. And so it has become a back burner thing for me now. And it seems silly. Again, this seems really silly and juvenile, but I know that there are things that we insist upon doing every day that are quite trivial. And I just want to encourage you to just begin to create some awareness around it. If you find yourself saying that you don't have enough time for things, you actually have to look at where your time is going. Or if you don't have enough money for things, look at where your money's actually going, because you can't change any of that stuff until you create awareness around it. And it's not hard to create awareness around this. It's not difficult at all. It is just being intentional about it, right? And so, for instance, when my husband and I first started doing budgeting years and years and years and years and years ago, it was very eye-opening for me to track all of our expenses. Because prior to that, it was like, oh, well, let's hope we have enough money to make it through the month, kind of a thing. And then when we started to track where money was going, it gave us the opportunity to choose differently, to decide differently for things, right? And I share this story quite frequently, but I recall when we first started doing this, and I realized how much we were spending on takeout pizza. And at the time it was like $200 a month on takeout pizza. And I thought to myself, oh, there are so many other things that I would rather spend $200 on than takeout pizza. But I didn't know that that's what I was spending on takeout pizza, so I couldn't change it. And that's the biggest thing, is that a very large portion of our day, 90% or more of our day, is habitual, which means that we don't give it much thought. And so when you're not giving it much thought, you're not creating the awareness around it. You don't have the ability to actually change it because you don't know what you're actually doing. And so this is where I really encourage my clients to, one, get super aware, hyper aware of what it is, right? So what's your main excuse? This is where I work with my clients. I'll say, okay, what is your number one excuse? Why are you not living the life that you want to live? And more often than not, it's time or money are the two excuses. I'm not there because of this. I'm not there because of that. Self-worth, self-love, that comes in as well. But the two biggest reasons are time and money, are the two biggest reasons why people are not living the life that they want to live. Now, again, those can be broken down into subcategories, but those are the two main umbrellas, right? And then I'll say, okay, cool. I get that. So what we're going to do is create awareness of where your time and money are going first. And typically we'll do one, not both of them at the same time, right? And so we'll look at it, and I will legitimately have them track where their time or money is going for a full week, minimum. If I can get them to do it longer, I love that, right? But for a whole week, and then you become hyper aware of where your life is going. What are you spending your time and your money on? Because those are the things that are actually a priority to you, whether you've said it out loud or not. And that can be, feel a little bit like tough love when you're like, actually, I noticed that you spend a lot of time, watching sports on TV, or you insist upon, sitting down and Netflixing for 3 hours at night. Okay, well, again, this is not to shame anybody around it at all. This is simply to say, if you're not happy with where you are, you have to look at where you are first. And I talk about this all the time when I share about, the roadmaps, right? If you are telling me that you're in Florida and you want to get to California, but you're not actually in Florida, you're actually in Massachusetts, the directions to get to California are going to be very, 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 very different. And so you can look at where you are without shame, without judgment, and just go, you know what? Oh, that's interesting, right? Just a mind of curiosity. This is what I love. I love to bring the curiosity factor into it, because it's like, I never actually realized I was doing that. Similar to, I remember sharing a podcast episode with my dad one time. And I'm sure he was good intentioned with it, but I remember him telling me how many times I paused or I said a particular phrase. And I thought, that's interesting. I never noticed that I actually did that until you brought it to my attention. Same thing. Like when I do calls, I realize, like the discovery calls, there are phrases that people say repeatedly, and it's so interesting because they probably don't even know. I mean, my older brother, same sort of thing. He was on a podcast interview and he said, he shared it with the family chat, and then he sent me a private message and he said, be honest with me. How is it? And so I listened to it and I said, very honestly, I said, you use the phrase, I don't even remember what the phrase was, but I feel like the phrase might have been, you know what I mean. Right? That is a phrase that I find a lot of people use, even to total strangers, because they've said it to me. They're like, well, you know what I mean. And I'm like, but I don't. I actually don't know what you mean. And I'm not entirely sure. And so I shared that with my brother and I said, this phrase, whichever phrase it was, I don't recall at this time. I said, you said that phrase probably about 15 times in the first 20 minutes. And he said, oh man, he said, I don't even realize that I say it all the time. And I said, I know, but you asked me. And so now you're going to be hyper aware of it, right? When somebody draws your attention to it, you are now hyper aware of it. And it's interesting because then we actually have the ability to choose it, right? When my husband and I got married, you're getting a whole bunch of little stories from me right now. When my husband and I first got married, I'm from Massachusetts originally, and if you've ever spent any time in New England, you know that New Englanders love to use the word wicked. That's wicked awesome, wicked cool, right? Whatever it is. But I didn't realize how much I said it until my husband said, "You need to stop saying that. It's too much." And then I went home and I realized how much people use the word wicked. And I thought, wow, this is really incredible. I didn't realize I said it that much. And now I very, very rarely, if ever, use it. But it was brought to my attention. And then I was able to actually change it. And so if you are in a place, business, life, personal, whichever, right? If you're in a place where you're sitting there going, you know what? Why don't I have the time for the thing I really want to do? Why don't I have the money for the thing that I really want to do? I want you to get aware of where those things are going. Spend a couple of days just at the end of the day reflecting, okay, hey, here's what I did first thing in the morning. Here's where I spent my money. Here's where I spent my time. Just a couple of days non-judgmental, just watching it. Be curious. Be like, oh, that's interesting that I spent 3 hours watching a movie at the end of the day because I would have much rather done X, Y, and Z. If you don't know where your time and money and energy are going, you don't give yourself the opportunity to choose differently. So create awareness around it, or have someone else do it for you. Your partner, your kids are really great at this, right? Your partner or a girlfriend, an accountability partner, somebody that can just draw your attention to the thing, or, someone that can call you out in a loving way, right? And again, I say loving way because if you really do want to change, you're going to have to be open to hearing things differently, right? So that is all that I have for today. You got a whole bunch of little stories in here, a little bit of nuggets, and yeah, summertime. I had to send my children to the other side of the house because I don't have an office door, so that's life. But we're gonna make it through. It's gonna be great. You may hear children yelling in the background periodically throughout these episodes, but it'll be what it is, right? So I am sending you so much love. I hope that you have an incredible rest of your day. And as always, be you because the world needs more of you. Bye.